We are live. Now we are live. I think we're live. Yes, I think we are live. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all well wherever you are around the world. This is the 6th Q&A. We didn't have the last Q&A because of some technical difficulties, but I've improved on that and now have a microphone. So hopefully you can hear me very well. Hopefully. So I can already see that one person has joined. So welcome along to, like I said, this. So it's great to be here. It's great to be back. And I certainly hope that we can get some people involved this afternoon and try and get people engaged in what I'm going to do with you and try to get you involved in basically what I have planned for today. So we'll just get ready. We'll get people ready for the Q&A today. Is let me know where you come from. Let me know what you're doing at the moment, apart from watching this, of course, because this is a priority. Let me know where you are, where you're watching from, where you're from. Let me know in the chat. I'm happy to know about what your plan is, maybe for today, for tomorrow, or maybe even this evening, or even for your day, wherever you're watching from. So thank you very much for coming along. To those, we don't have anyone at the moment, but I'm sure we will at some point. Like I said, Q&As is all about question and answers. So any questions that you have, I am waiting. Any questions that come to mind, English questions, no German questions, because I can't answer those. Any Russian questions, I can't answer those, but I can do my best with English questions. So get them in as soon as you can, and we'll start tackling those. Like I said, we need to get some people in first of all. So let's hope we can get some people on the Q&A and get involved in the chat. And really start to engage with you all out there. Like I said, it's been a month since I was last on, or 2 months now, actually, because I couldn't see you all last month. But fingers crossed, everything is working well. I don't know if it is or if it isn't, because there's nobody to tell me. But I'm pretty sure that it is working. So hopefully you can hear me well whenever you do come along and you do watch this, and you do enjoy the Q&A that we'll be doing today. So I have a lot planned for today, pretty much what I had planned last month. But all of that is what is to come today. So we're going to start, I think, with what we normally do in our Q&As or in the Q&A. And that is to very much, well, it would be to ask the audience, but I have nobody to ask at the moment. So actually, we're not going to start necessarily with the Q&A itself. I'd like us to look more at something new. Oh, we have SMM, very popular around here. SMM, thank you very much for coming along, and hopefully we can be joined by a few others this evening as well. Like I said, we have lots planned for today, so hopefully we can get engaged. So yeah, hello to SMM. Hopefully we can get some others here as well. I'll just get up on my tablet here what we're going to do today. So if you have no English related questions, then we're going to go straight to what I have prepared for us. So I'd like us to start us off with the Ask the Audience. Now that we have somebody here, the Ask the Audience, and how I want to know about your country. I want to know a little bit more about who you are as people, about your nationality, about your country, and how is your country stereotyped. So I'll write this in the chat for you, and I'll tell you how the UK or how England is stereotyped. You might already know some English stereotypes or some British stereotypes. And if you do know them, then of course write them in the chat or write them in the comment section if you watch this later on. I would love to hear what your opinions are and what you know about British stereotypes. So let me just write it here in the chat. So how is your country stereotyped? So we'll get straight to it. We'll get straight to it. So how Britain is stereotyped, and some of you may already know that. You may know this, you may not. But this is something that a lot of people know, because it is, when we talk about Britain, we talk a lot about how we enjoy politeness. Well, we have politeness and we have being punctual. Yeah, no question that people are punctual, people are polite in this country, sometimes overly polite. And for instance, if I was to say hello to you and you were to respond to me, I would give you another response. Is everything okay? Are you sure you're okay? Everything all right? I'm sorry about that. Please, can I have this? Please, can I have that? We do this constantly. We do this far too much. We like to be overly polite. Do we need to be overly polite? Well, no, we don't, but we like to be. So please, could you listen to me while we do this podcast? It's not a podcast, is it? No, it's our Q&A. So thank you for watching. And that's why I say thank you so much. I don't need to say thank you so much, but thank you for watching. Who is watching out there? And that's something, yes, that we are stereotyped for, but it's a stereotype that is true about this country and about many British people, me included. Thank you very much for listening. So something else that we are stereotyped. So the person watching it's good to say thank you. I think it's good to say thank you personally, but I think there are also times that we can use this language a little bit too much, and it can be a nice thing about British people, like SMM is saying in the chat. So that is something that we have had, what's been part of our culture for many, many years now. I don't know how many years, but many, many, many years. And I think it will be part of our culture for years to come. So that's one thing, is our politeness. Now, is there anything else that comes to mind? Punctuality is one that SMM wrote here. But is there anything else that you can think of that British people are stereotyped for? What about a drink? Do we have a famous drink in this country? Is there a drink that we drink a lot of? It's not one I drink, but I know many, many people who do. Millions of people do it every day. If that is in the morning, afternoon, or evening, there is always time in some people's lives for tea. Now, that is typical here in the UK, and wherever you go around the UK, you will find the opportunity to drink tea. And that's why we also have something called afternoon tea, which is a tradition that we have had for many, many years now, just like politeness, punctuality, and tea. So tea is one. We also like to drink. Now, when I say like to drink, I'll be a little bit more specific. Drink alcohol. As the British are known to drink too much alcohol. Some people may argue not enough alcohol, but I think too much, to an extent which I feel is unnecessary and is damaging to your health. But not everyone would agree with that point of view. So drinking is something that is also part of our culture. It's a stereotype that we've had for many, many years now. Now, what else? What else do we have, or what do you have in your own country? So wherever you're from around the world, if that is Spain, Italy, Japan, Russia, South America, what do you have in your country that is a stereotype? Is it a stereotype you're proud of? Is it a stereotype that you are not so proud of? That's what I'd like to know. Is write it in the comment section or write it in the chat and let me know. I'm always curious to learn about different cultures, about different stereotypes. I know some stereotypes from countries such as Spain as it's one that I'm familiar with, as I've been there a few times. But the British have quite a few stereotypes, one of them being the weather. Now, British weather is something that we talk about, again, in my opinion, far too much. If there's nothing to talk about, you talk about the weather. And that always passes conversations by very, very quickly. Is anyone really interested in the weather? No, I don't think so. I'm not really that interested in the weather. I look outside, I can see the weather, or I go outside and I see the weather, and that's it. I don't think any more about it. However, there are people who like to talk about it. So that is a typical conversation piece that people like to have when we are speaking about the weather. If it's sunny, rainy, doesn't matter. People will happily talk about the weather, usually to complain about the weather. Because we're good at that as well here in Britain, is that we do like to complain. However, as stereotypes go, although we like to complain, we don't like confrontation. Again, this doesn't apply to everyone, but this is a stereotype that we have had for many, many years. I'm not the complaining type. Never have been. I don't think I ever will be. I know many people who do complain, and these particular people usually get what they want when they do complain. So it is, again, a stereotype. So it doesn't apply to everyone. It applies to some. Right. So we've got some about Spanish here from SMM, which is, well, we just have 4 words. So we can explore all 4 of these words. Spanish. So, well, that's not the first word, actually. Well, it is the first word, but it's not what it's about. So we have rude is the first one. Well, how rude can Spanish people be? That is the question. How rude can Spanish people be? I know some rude Spanish people, but I know other Spanish people who are kind and very pleasant. So again, this is what comes from a stereotype, is that rude can be attached to Spanish people. The next one that's on the list here, which is an interesting one, which is the word abrupt. Now, is abrupt a word that is best describing Spanish people? Is it a stereotype of Spanish people? Can they be a little bit short, a little bit direct with you? Because here in England, we don't really do that. It's not really part of how British people are. But I guess in Spain, it can be a stereotype of someone being a little bit abrupt, a little bit direct with you. The next one is late. Now, I am familiar with this particular stereotype of Spanish people who arrive late. I have had students for many years. Yes, many years. And their timekeeping is awful. It's the worst you've ever seen. And they arrive 20, 30 minutes late to a lesson, and they think it's perfectly fine. Now, in my book, that's not fine. But in this particular student's mind, it was normal for him to arrive 20 minutes, 30 minutes late. That's him. That, again, doesn't apply to everyone, but it is an unfortunate stereotype that has attached itself to the Spanish culture. And then we have lazy. Spanish people being lazy. Now, I don't want to offend any of the Spaniards watching by saying this word, because I know a lot of hardworking Spaniards. However, again, this does apply to some ones. These stereotypes do come from somewhere. Where do they come from? Who knows? But they have to come from some source. And that source that they come from means that these particular words that SMM wrote are maybe not completely true, but maybe slightly true. So what else do you have in your country that is a stereotype? Maybe it's a good stereotype, maybe it's a bad one. Is it a stereotype you're proud of? Is it one you're ashamed of? I can't really think of any that I'm particularly proud of as a stereotype here in Britain. But for the two people watching out there at the moment, what about you? What about stereotypes in your country? So if that is Spain or that is another country, what do you have? Well, as I was saying, I'm always late, so the stereotype is true with me. Well, there you go. So I didn't want to say it, that it applies to everyone, but it does apply to SMM in this case. So that's where some of these stereotypes do come from, and that we can apply ourselves to these stereotypes sometimes without even realizing it. It's like queuing. Queuing is something that we do a lot here in Britain. Don't ask me why we queue, but why we queue so much, but we queue almost for everything. We queue in the supermarket, we queue in shops, we queue in rides. We are just so formal, we are so polite that we feel we need to queue for everything. So when you queue for something, you need to be well-mannered. So it means that you stay in line and you wait your turn. And if anyone sneaks in ahead of you, people are not happy. People are certainly not happy. So queuing is one that we've had in this country for many, many years. And it's a funny one because you still see it today, and people are very mild-mannered about it, as in they form a queue and they just wait their turn. Just very politely, very patiently wait their turn before they get to the front. But anyone gets in front of them, or step back, because it could get messy. So that's another stereotype that we have here in Britain. But like I said, I'd like to know a little bit more about the stereotypes in your own country, or what about stereotypes from other countries that you're aware of? Are there any stereotypes that you're aware of here? Well, not necessarily here in Britain, but maybe somewhere else in Europe. Anywhere in Europe, or if that is maybe in the United States, in North America, South America, any stereotypes that you're aware of? Have a think about it. We have time. And think, what type of stereotypes do you have in not just your country, but around around Europe, around the world? So I'll just give you an idea of again, one that we'd have here in England, and that is apologizing. Is that we apologize far too much. I've realized that there's a big difference between when you should apologize and when you should say something else entirely. So if I say something that I'm not supposed to say, we have something about German people, but I'll just finish off on my point here. So for instance, if I was to say something and it was slightly inappropriate, or not even inappropriate, or it's not even my fault, I say sorry. Sorry. We apologize, as far as I'm concerned, far too much. And I think that rubs off on other cultures, and I think that might even apply to other countries and their stereotypes. Do you say that a lot in your own country? Do you say sorry too much, even when you don't actually need to say sorry and it's the other person's fault, but it's just easier to apologize? Like I said, I used to do it, but now I feel that, you know what, if it's not my fault, it's not my fault. But not everyone sees it the same way, but it's definitely a stereotype that we have here in the UK. So let's just go to SMM's point here, which is about German people. Right, so I don't know if I have any German subscribers, but if I do, then maybe you can tell me if this is a true stereotype. Really structured. Yes, I have heard something similar before about a stereotype. I don't know. I have taught some Germans over the years, and I could probably go on really structured or maybe even serious. I have known Germans to be quite serious. But again, maybe this is just me, and the impression that I get from Germans is that they are serious people. Do you see Germans differently? Do you see them as very happy people? Are they polite people? Are they a bit rude? Are they too direct? I suppose unless you live in that country, do you really learn about the culture and about the stereotypes? Many years ago here in Britain, it's not really said so now, but one particular thing that we had in this country, I don't think we have it anymore, is that people used to think there was a lot of fog in this country, not necessarily because of the weather, but because of the amount of people who smoked. Now, it's not the case today, but again, that's a stereotype that stuck with Britain for decades and decades. So nowadays, you don't really hear people talking about it. I said the ones that I brought up before are certainly more common ones. Yeah, so stereotypes are, as SMM is saying here, stereotypes are not necessarily true because they do happen everywhere. I've been told I'm very British in how I speak and how I am. But what does that even mean, that I'm very British, or that someone is too German, or someone is too Spanish? What does that really refer to? Do I take it as a compliment that I'm very British? Well, it's my nationality, so I guess it's a compliment. But yes, stereotypes originate from somewhere, and we should not always base our opinions on stereotypes. We should educate ourselves by going to different countries around the world and gaining knowledge from the culture, from the language, from the locals. That's as far as I'm concerned. Does anyone out there who's watching agree with that? Do you think that's the best way to learn about a culture? Is it to read about stereotypes or read in newspapers or read on the internet? Or is it better to travel to that place and learn from the country, learn from the city, learn from the people? I'll just give you some time to just think about that. So which one do you do? How do you learn about different countries? How do you learn about them? So SMM here says that the best way is to travel and talk to those who live there. Yeah, couldn't agree more. So we're definitely on the same page with this. I personally feel that if you want to learn about a country, city, a town, people, food, language, anything, you need to go there and experience it for yourself. Of course, you can read books and you can go there with the impression that this might happen or people could be like this. But you should never judge a book by its cover until you've actually been there and actually experienced it. Not all English people drink tea. Good example. Not all English people drink alcohol. Good example. So it shows that stereotypes should not always be applied. But they are funny, and they are ones that we can talk about and we can discuss for many, 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 many hours. But we don't have many, many hours. But I certainly have enjoyed the interaction here, and I certainly would like to hear from more of you in the comments section about the stereotypes that you have in your country. Right, SMM, do you eat lots of beans? Right, it's a bit personal on that one, but I can answer it. I'm not going to shy away from this question. Do I eat lots of beans? This is also something that is a stereotype in this country. That's we like our baked beans in this country. We have them with our English breakfast. We have them on toast. Believe it or not, maybe you would never, ever imagine putting beans on toast, but we do. And do I eat a lot of beans? No, not a lot. I eat some. Always keep beans in your cupboard for an emergency. That is a fact right there. But they're not everyone's cup of tea. So yes, stereotypes are fascinating to talk about, but yes, don't judge a person, don't judge a country on stereotypes. Experience it all for yourself. So does anyone have anything else to add for the Q&A? Well, let's just say for the ask the audience today. Anything else you want to ask about British stereotypes to me, or you want to ask me anything about certain stereotypes in your own country? Then do write it in the chat before we move on. I will just bring up the most important documents for the Q&A, which will help us now move on to our next very exciting activity for today. So I'd want you to get involved in this one if you can. It would be great to hear from you. Is that I'd like to test your knowledge. So this is about testing your knowledge and see how much you know about the language. Don't worry, this isn't a test necessarily. It's just a test of your knowledge. So it is a test, but it's not the type of test that you're going to be marked on. But you pass this test if you participate. So simple as that. So let's see what you know about English words. So that's what it's called. Simple as that. English words is what we're going to play. So I'd like you to tell me out there, again, if you're watching this later on, do put in the chat the words that you know that begin with these two letters. So can you write for me in the chat 5 words? Let me put it here. I'm going to write it in the chat so nobody gets confused. 5 words beginning with ST. How many words do you know that begin with ST? Just give me 5. Just looking at 5 words. I'm not going to give you any words yet, but have a think about it. What words do you know that begin with these 2 letters? There are many words that begin with these 2 letters. I may have just said a word there, but yes, write it in the chat. So we have quite a few coming in from SMM. So we have the first one, which is stout. Interesting choice, the first word. Not one that I expected to hear, but yeah, somebody that is dependable, or it can be a euphemism for someone who is overweight or fat. Second one we have is stop. I'm sure that's one that many of you know out there. And of course, stop would mean to prevent, or prevent doing something. And then we have still. Yeah, so we can use still as an adverb, or we can use still as an adjective. So still as an adverb could mean for something to continue. So I'm still talking. Yes, I'm still talking. I'm going to be talking for a little bit longer. And then we also have still with the adjective, which is when we don't move. We don't move when something is stationary. For example, I was still. So I was not moving. So you can also use that one. Right. Also have the word stable. So stable is another good word. Again, beginning with ST. So very good indeed. Stable again can have the meaning of something that has stability. So is able to be steady. Can also be a place where horses live as well. Can also be a stable. Next one, stabbing. A bit of a violent word, this one. Stabbing. So stabbing is a word that is used when we are speaking about a person who has inserted a knife into a person. That is the chest, leg, arm, anything. That would be known as stabbing. And the verb there would be stab. And we have stable again. Yeah, why not? Why not have it a second time? Stigma. Ooh, very nice. Very nice indeed. So it certainly seems that SMM knows their words beginning with ST. And when we use stigma, so this can be a symbol of disgrace, or this can also be a lesion that you have on your skin. So this could be like some sort of sign of disease that you could have on your skin, like a mark or a stain. Stock, yeah, stock is a good one. So you can put a stock in the market. So if we could, for example, in the stock market, yeah, you can also have stock as well, which you maybe put in. Well, yeah, you could also put this, for example, if you want to make something like gravy, you can also use these, what we call stock cubes. This could be, maybe it's not something that you have in your own country, but we call them stock cubes, and we use them to make sauces. Okay, right. Stitches. Sorry, standard is our next one. So standard, yeah, it's something that is average, that is normal. So I hope that this particular Q&A is not standard. It's above standard. I hope so. I hope so. Stitches. Excellent word. Yes, so stitches is something that we could have if we have an accident and we need to close the wound. We usually need to go to hospital to get someone to close the wound for us. And yeah, we have another comment here. Somebody else who has joined. Thank you very much for joining. Stubbles, close, very close with that one. With this word, we just put this one in singular. So this is a noun, and stubble is something that we have where a couple of days after we shave. So this is the growth that we have around our face, especially a man, what they have around their face after they've shaved. So this could be 2 or 3 days after. So this is known as stubble. Now, don't get confused with what I have. I do not have stubble. I have a beard. But if I was to shave everything, then a few days later, I'd have stubble. But yes, very good word indeed. So thank you for your comment, Yanis. Appreciate you taking the time to be here and to write your word. Any other words that you can think of? Well, actually, I'm going to give you a couple of the words that I have here. You can continue to write your own if any do come to mind. I'm going to write a couple of mine. One of them is still, is one of mine. The other I have is stale. We use the word stale when we are talking about something that is no longer fresh. So we especially use this with bread. So especially use stale with bread. So for instance, if you leave bread outside, let's say outside your fridge, and it's exposed to the atmosphere, then the bread gets a bit hard. It is then stale. So the word stale is actually a very good word to speak about bread. We don't use this with fruit, and we don't use this with vegetables. So yeah, stale is my second one. This is another one that I have. Just pick up on what Selling SMM said here. I've never heard stubble before. Good one. It is definitely a very good word. So we don't just say, oh, this person has a little bit of hair around their face. No, we say the person has stubble. So yeah, very good choice indeed. Stomach is my next one. I think we're all should be pretty clear on what our stomach is and where it is in our body. Very important that it functions correctly. Okay, so that's my third one. I'll give you my fourth one now, which is sting. Now, does anyone have any idea? So you can speak up now if in the chat if you feel that you know what this word means when we use the word sting. When we use the word sting. Any of you heard of this word before? I'm going to think about it. That hurts. Something that hurts, yes. When we use the word sting, we don't use sting with everything. So a dog does not sting, a dog bites, as they use their mouth. Or a snake bites, a cat bites. But when we use sting, we usually use this word when we are speaking about animals such as wasps or bees, and it's usually at the end of their body. This could cause shock, and this can hurt people, not necessarily for a long period of time. Yes, very good. So yeah, bees, when a bug bites you. Yes, so bees, wasps, a scorpion. Yeah, these type of animals are ones that do sting. They don't bite. So there's a difference between the two. All right. So I have one last word that I'm going to give you, and then we're going to move on to our penultimate part for today. Let me just find the last word that I wrote here. Right. Yeah. So I think this is one that you'll know, which is the word stone. Yeah, or a gnat. Excellent. Yes, a gnat as well can also I believe a gnat can sting. Yes. Yeah, that's right. This is when we use the word sting. And my last one is stone. Again, a couple of words then beginning with ST. So hopefully that's helped you with your English vocabulary. Thank you for playing along, SMM and Yanis there. And this is all to help you use new English vocabulary and to try and incorporate some of these words in your English conversations. So thank you for taking part in that. Jan is saying also about spider. Yes, a spider can also, well, you can get a spider, you get a spider bite, because they have teeth, do spiders. So you would have a spider that bites. Right. So we have a couple of things left to do for today. So we're going to have a look now at what is the object. We're going to look at what is the object. We did this there's a couple of Q&As ago. So I'm going to show you. This is what we have here. Forget my company here at the top. But what is it that I'm holding? What is it that I'm holding, and what do I use it for? Can it only be these colors, or can it be different colors? What do we have here? Well, I'm actually going to give a little bit away because I'm a bit thirsty. So I use it to drink. What do we call this here? Give you some time to think about it. Don't put it in Google. Don't cheat. Think about, what is it? We use it to drink. What is the name of this particular object? How do we use it? We use it to drink. Or Esther has put a glass. It's not quite a glass. So glass slightly different because it's made of glass. Therefore, that's why it's called glass. It could be a cup of coffee. You're very close. Yeah, Yanis, you're very, very close with that one. It's similar to a cup of coffee. However, a cup is actually smaller. And then the width of it is actually wider. So let me write it for you here in the chat. So it is called a mug. So we call this a mug. So the difference between a mug and a cup is that a cup tends to be smaller, and also the top of it tends to be wider with a cup. So don't ask me why. We don't say a mug of coffee. We always say a cup of coffee, but we drink it in a mug. So it doesn't really make much sense, but there's a lot in English that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but we're not going to get into that at the moment. So yes, this is our word for today. This is our object for today, and it is a mug. So it's almost come to that point. I haven't mentioned it so far. If you've watched the Q&A before, you know what's coming. You know what's coming because this is what you look forward to when you click on the Q&A. It doesn't make sense. Everyone does say it doesn't make sense. Well, I think I make sense, but I know what you mean. Yes. Why do we say a cup of coffee and not a mug of coffee? Couldn't tell you. I'm probably not the person to ask. And you could ask many people and they probably wouldn't be able to tell you. It's one of those great English anomalies that, unfortunately, we can't answer. So yes, it's time for English fact. Now, English fact is fascinating for obvious reasons because you get to learn a fact about something absolutely incredible. Something that otherwise you would never, ever know. You would never, ever find this out. Well, if you clicked on the internet, you maybe find something. But you come to this Q&A because you want to know an English fact. So it's coming, and it's about how we live in this country. And what is the most expensive place to live in this country? Do you have any idea? Those watching out there, what do you think? What is the most expensive place to live in this country? Don't think of the obvious one, because I know you're thinking of maybe the obvious one here. Ah, yeah, you both of you went for London. Well, it's not London. However, it is a major city. So this major city, well, actually, it's not one, it's two. It's considered to be two, depending on what you read. Is that it's these two are the ones at the top. These are the ones considered to be the most expensive cities to live. So one of these is 10.7 times higher than the average salary. So house prices are 10.7 times higher than the average salary. So that tells you a lot about living in this place. And it's a city that is very famous for its universities, for its tremendous architecture all around the city. A place I definitely recommend visiting. It is Oxford. London is not far behind, but yes, Oxford is the most expensive place to live in England currently. Oh, yeah. You thought it would be Oxford or Cambridge. Yes, both are well-renowned universities that we do have here in England. But yes, Oxford is the most expensive place to live, like 10.7 times higher than the average salary. Who can afford to live in Oxford? Well, I can't. That's why I don't live there. But even if I had the money, I probably wouldn't live there. So it shows how much it costs to live in a city like Oxford. Now, the other one, because this one is also considered to be the first one as well, the second one. So joint first, I'd say, up there with Oxford. And this is one that I've mentioned before in a previous Q&A. This was a previous capital. Before London was the capital of England, it was this city. And it's a city down in the south. And we call this city Winchester. So Winchester is also known as one of the most expensive places to live in the country. It's a beautiful place to visit, just like Oxford. But if you choose to live there, make sure you have more than an average salary, because you might struggle to afford a property there. So yeah, Oxford and Winchester are known as the two most expensive place to live currently here in the UK. Of course, that could change next year, but currently it is these two major cities. Definitely worth visiting, but you might want to think twice about living there. Right, our Q&A is unfortunately come to an end. Sorry to say, it's fortunately come to an end, but I appreciate everyone who's come today. So thank you, SMN, and thank you, Yannis, for all of your comments and getting involved in that Ask the Audience segment, in what is the object, the English fact, and the vocabulary builder at the end. So thank you very much for joining me today on this. Oh, it's a nice, pleasant Friday afternoon where I am. So wherever you are, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, your day, your morning, your evening. I don't know when I'll see you next, but I'm sure I'll see you sometime next month. So take care. See you soon. See you later, alligator.